Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It's xoxo-horchatamamita back for another video. And today we're going to talk about something that I feel like is super relevant to just my lifestyle, and I think many people, considering how digital facing the world has become since COVID and everything. Today's video is going to be about being a creative in corporate. Mind you, this is very dependent on region, you know, like your culture. And obviously I'm coming from a perspective, maybe it's not obvious, but I'm coming from a perspective of someone in Western civilization, so take that as you may. And I wanted to start like experimenting a bit more with like my makeup looks, also just incorporate like different colors. I don't know, have more fun with my makeup. I feel like again, I always say, I'm a Taurus, I'm a creature of habit. And at this point in my life too, I think like after having done makeup for so long and like kind of understanding like colors and not fully color theory, but essentially what looks good on me and, you know, what suits my face, I feel like I've fallen into the habit of just doing like the same types of makeup looks all the time. So with that being said, today I want to try something a little bit different. I'm gonna put a picture here for you guys so you can see what the inspo comes from, but it's honestly from an old photo album of makeup inspo pics. I never gotten to do a makeup look based off of this inspo, so I thought this is the perfect opportunity to try it out. Anyways, enough of the yip yap. Let's get started with some tips again for creatives in corporate. So I'm gonna first start out with priming. I'm gonna use the Vive Skin Nova Instant Radiance Primer. Really love. I have also been prepping my face with hella sunscreen, I'm not gonna lie. I don't think you could have too much, honestly. One thing about it is it's gonna keep you young. So I think I have like those products here so I could just show you guys. I've been using the Istine Fusion Water Magic SPF 40 Broad Spectrum Daily Use Sunscreen. Mind you, start with moisturizer. Cannot forget that. I feel like naturally your skin produces more oils in the summer, but regardless of what your skin type is, girl, you go with a moisturize. That's just my take, okay? But yeah, topped it off with the Istine sunscreen. And then finally, I've honestly been in love with this product. I feel like it's really brought my makeup together. Even when I'm doing like a no makeup look, or just like literally no makeup, like look how good my skin looks. I feel like it just gives me such a good like doughy, glowy look. And I'm a dewy girl. Like that's, some people are more matte, like they like that type of look. I'm definitely a dewy girl. I love to shine. Like I want you to see me 5 blocks away, respectfully. Especially in the summer. Like, I don't know. I feel like there's just like a radiance. That's my vibe. So anyways, I think I got this from the TikTok shop, but it's the Habit number 41 Floral Botanic Mister. Again, also sunscreen. So the nice thing about this is the spray, and if you want to like touch up on sunscreen, you already have like a full face on, you could touch it up, just splash them on your makeup. So yeah, I like how multi-purpose it is, I guess, because like you can use it whether you have a full face or you just have, again, a no makeup look, or you're rocking like the bare face. So I'm low-key running low, so I'm literally gonna restock on it. That's how much I love this product, but I'm gonna link that down below for you guys. You guys wanted to check that out. Probably gonna restock soon, but yeah, I thought I'd put a little plug in for you guys because I've noticed a lot of people have been complimenting like my skin recently, and the main thing that I would say has changed with my skincare routine is adding that spray in the mix. No pun intended. So yeah, y'all, let's get started. I think these styles is getting a little bit carried away, but I'm going to prime with the Vive Skin Nova primer. Less is more. I still like to do like a drop or two. For me, being a very creative person, it's always been a bit hard like figuring out how both identities can exist at the same time, right? Like being creative but also being somebody who navigates the workspace, the corporate space. Obviously they intertwine. It's not like they're completely different worlds, but I think they're still distinct identities, if that makes sense. So at my root, I've always been like a very creative person, but I think like growing older and like not being a pro corporate type of person, I guess I should say, let me phrase it like that, it always has been kind of interesting like operating the space as someone who at my core, you know, has operated in a very, not even whimsical, but just like in a very just like free-spirited, like not really liking too much rigidity, like not really liking way too much structure, but also appreciating the structure at the same time. I feel like it's just been a journey, like learning to navigate the two worlds, specifically like being a creative at heart and navigating corporate as, for lack of a better phrase, like a way of still sustaining a lifestyle that I'm comfortable with, because I do feel like I can go on about this forever. But by the way, I'm using the Naturium Dew Glow Tinted Moisturizer SPF 50, also tinted sunscreen. Clearly, this is why I've been doing a glowy look, because it's giving sunscreen on sunscreen on sunscreen. But I've been loving this for the summer, especially because I feel like I force it sometimes if I'm taking like hella pictures and stuff. Obviously, I want to be picture ready, picture perfect, and this is not as much coverage as, you know, a thicker, like full coverage foundation. But yeah, I feel like when it's like really warm, especially now with this heat wave, like East Coast girlies, I'm sure most of the country, like you / world, you understand with, you know, global warming and everything. I feel like especially with like the heat wave, it's been crucial to, you know, be glam, but like do it in a way where there's minimal product, you know, involved. So back to what I was saying. Yeah, I just feel like it's been a journey being a creative in corporate America. Like, I think, yes, it is possible to make a good living as a creative, but I think many who, from my experience, like personally, and from like just like speaking to other, I guess, creatives, usually it's very much common to partake in corporate America, to be employed, you know, in corporate America, and also do your creative endeavors simultaneously, because you got to pay the bills at the end of the day. And again, while it's possible to make a living with art, I feel like that journey can be a bit longer. Yeah, I just think it takes a while, essentially. I think that's the best way to phrase it. Like, it takes a while to get to the point where you're funding your lifestyle and making it, you know, more comfortable, yes, with just your creative endeavors alone. So anyways, I guess that's like the perspective I'm coming from. So I think, considering that most creatives do want to choose to balance, you know, a career in corporate and also like a pursuit of their artistic goals, one thing that's challenging when navigating the two spaces, you know, again, corporate and the creative space, is balancing the two worlds. And so with that being said, I think some things that I've learned and that, you know, are important to consider when you're trying to navigate these worlds is, for one, and again, this ties into like a lot of my other content, but just like understanding that it's a beautiful thing to be multifaceted, and just like embracing that, essentially. Like, I feel like sometimes when you have multiple, and it feels like seemingly like competing priorities or competing value, sometimes it feels like a burden, you know? It feels like it's like a load on you versus like, this is a blessing, you know? The fact that I can be able to navigate both at the same time is a beautiful thing, essentially. And again, I say this all the time, but like, being creatively inclined is a beautiful thing. And I think to some degree, all of us are, you know, like, and these are gifts from God. Like, these are what makes us unique and as individuals, is like our ability to create in this world, whatever that may mean. So I think even being like a creative, the thought of that, like, I think it could be broader than what we see it as, you know, like being able to create anything, like having the imagination to just make something out of nothing. And, oh, we're getting philosophical here, but to some extent, like, everyone does that, you know, whether it be like you're creating a vision for like a company, like you're creating a vision for a family, like we're always creating something. And so just understanding the beauty and like, again, having the desire to make something beautiful and extricate out of like something that seems so simple, and understanding like the talent in that, you know, like the God-given, even if again, that doesn't really resonate with you spiritually, like God-given gift to cultivate something new. And so yeah, I think a lot of times, like, as humans, we feel like we have to be like simple, like we feel like we have to be like neatly put into different boxes, and it's like we don't have to, and we're not, you know, like we're very complex. And again, that is a beautiful thing. And so embracing that, allowing yourself to claim these different identities, you know, like be able to say like, hey, like, I do have creative visions, I do have creative inclinations, like I am a creative, and I also operate in corporate America, like, and I also can work within the system, I guess, that's already made for me. I'm not meeting that super deeply, okay, because I don't think it is a system that's really made for us in some ways, and that's tea, but we're not gonna get into that now, at least. But yeah, I think understanding like I can do both, you know, like I can be both, I can navigate both worlds, and I can also thrive in both to some degree. Like, again, giving yourself like the freedom, the space to be able to balance the two, I think is like a very important place to start from. So with that being said, like, we can't deny the fact that it is like a hard thing to balance, you know, the different worlds. And so I think another part of it is just like understanding that and being graceful with yourself in the process while you are balancing the different worlds. And I think that's with anything in life, but like being able to say like, okay, you know, at different points in life, my focus, my attention will have to be allocated differently, if that makes sense. Sometimes my creative endeavors might take up more mental energy, and so I might be putting more into that, and, you know, at the cost of maybe my mental energy when it comes to like navigating like the corporate world. And so I think, again, going back to being graceful, like you can't do it all. You can't like be good and equally good at everything, in my opinion. There's always going to be like something that will be sacrificed in the process. And so being very like intentional and like specific about what it is that you want to be like, again, the focus versus what you want to sacrifice, I guess, time and like effort into, I think is important in being able to balance both things well. I think a lot of times we want to be good at everything, like I said, and like that might mean you'll beat yourself up over, you know, not being able to like give your 200% to it all. But I've just learned that in my journey, it's just not productive. It's not sustainable. You're just going to be burnt out all the time, and you're not going to produce good work in anything. And that's why they even say like when you're like multitasking, you're less likely to do each thing well. Like it limits your ability to succeed at anything. And so that doesn't mean, again, that you can't do both well, but it's like I think you need to set realistic standards and expectations as to, again, how much effort can be put in both and like what that's going to look like essentially. And I think another part of it is just like in identifying like, you know, what to put more energy towards. Obviously there's a baseline, right? Like, and when you are working a 9 to 5, girl, at the end of the day, for me, at least how I navigate things, like that's the priority. It depends on who you are, you know. Maybe for you it's like you're willing to sacrifice more of that because for you it's more important for you to be creative. It's more important for you to, you know, work towards whatever those artistic goals are. That is more so at the expense of, you know, your corporate job. You are someone who really values stability, and like you're okay with like maybe, I would say to some degree, like playing the long game more so when it comes to like your artistic pursuits. Slash maybe you don't want to like maybe you don't want to like turn them into a career or anything, or like take it super seriously. Like your priorities, the way that you know, decide what's taking more of your time and energy will look different, you know. So I think really being honest with yourself about what the end goal is, what purpose each serves, like I think will help in deciding like, okay, what do I want this to look like? And I think another part of it is also like not just what is required of me in both spaces, you know, corporate and creative, at the baseline in order to meet my intended objective, but also when do I have the most, you know, creative energy. Like different seasons of your life, you might be called to different things. And I think following your intuition is one of the most important skills in life, honestly, because there's a reason why you're having that, you know, inclination to pursue whatever. And so in my opinion, I think that it's important to listen to that. Like, am I more creative in the season of my life? Like, is that more of a priority right now? Or do I want to get a promotion in my job? You know, like, do I want to consistently make more money? And so when you have the energy for either, you know, whatever it is, leaning into that I think is very important, because that is when essentially you can be the most productive in that area of your life. Hopefully that was clear. But I think another thing that's important to consider is just like when you're balancing them, understanding that there is a connection between the creative and corporate worlds. And so I think understanding that like they're interrelated, they're intertwined in some regards. Naturally, I think there are like transitional skills among both, right? Like being able to, you know, think outside of the box, being able to like problem solve, you know, again, outside of like the norm, effectively working, like creating greater engagement, you know, whether that be like knowing how to foster like deep, meaningful, maybe not super deep, but like meaningful connections with people, like understanding their motives, like understanding your audience, you know, when you're presenting at work versus like whatever creative endeavor you have. Like I think that's like a transitional skill. Being able to like try new ideas and like understand and cater to different perspectives, I think can pertain to both. Being adaptable, I think knowing how to, you know, operate based on the status quo, but also build on that, you know, like see beyond that. I think also like being curious and like creating, as I mentioned before, personal relationships with people, I think is very important. Like these are things that in the corporate space maybe don't feel like they get as much recognition, depending on obviously the industry and everything, but they are things that add value to you as an employee, because again, it's like you're making the space better with these skills. And so I think specific to you, I think it's important to find a bridge between like your corporate interests, your corporate journey, and also your creative journey, your creative interests. Sometimes it's hard to like balance the two because it feels like they're so separate, but again, they're not. Think about like a Venn diagram. There's that space in the middle. It's not just like they're two adjacent entities, you know, like there are aspects that cross over. So I think understanding like how the two worlds influence each other, how they can essentially strengthen each other, how they're interrelated. I'm gonna like say that again, but it's really important, and being able to navigate both spaces. I'm gonna pause right here because I feel like I need to do my eyeshadow. Gotta love it, guys. I need to like actually lock in on my makeup now because I feel like once I start yapping, I lose track of time. But I'm gonna give you guys an example because I feel like it kind of like paints the picture a bit more. Also, I'm using the Valentino color flip when in Paris. I'm using this like tan-ish color just as like a base, and so I'm gonna just show you guys the other color it looks like. And then I'm gonna use my Morphe Pulp Fantasy palette. I'm gonna use this purple here. So okay, where was I at? To paint the picture, like, and these are relatable, but let's say I, you know, have experience in poetry and marketing. So oh wow, that's very pigmented. Y'all, I don't care what y'all say. Sorry guys, I know I'm like flip-flopping across topics, but like Morphe palettes will always be the truth, because what are we talking about? But I feel like you would think like, okay, poetry and marketing are like not related, like they're two different things. Okay, but like both require understanding the power of language, both require the understanding that, you know, tailoring a message to an audience is very important, you know, like understanding your audience, like essentially effectively communicating depending on who you're talking to. That's very important in both areas. And so is it true that we can't compare the two? I wouldn't say so. I just listed a few, you know, ways that both interlap, and there are again transitional skills where like when you hone in on that in one area, it helps the other area. So whether that be like you writing poetry and you being able to connect with your emotions and again connect to people through your poetry. So I'm going to do like a darker purple. Do I want to do a darker purple? I might do a brown, guys, because I feel like darker purple might give too much. I might do a darker purple like under here, my tight line. I'm gonna use this brown. With that being said, being able to again grow in empathy, like be able to connect emotionally to like words and like again an audience through that will be helpful in your job, whether that be like being able to connect on that level with your coworkers, or again if you're marketing, like tailoring your assets to your audience and being able to appeal to emotion through that. And I'm just using like one example, but my point is like there's always a connection between the two, and you just have to like get creative, no pun intended, in finding what that looks like for you. Make like the brown a little bit darker. But yeah, I think aside from like being able to like just bridge the gap between your corporate lifestyle and like your creative lifestyle, there's also an aspect of just like practically building a routine that is sustainable, where there's built-in time for both. And so essentially finding like a schedule that works for you in consideration again of both like priorities. And as I mentioned before, some of these are kind of going to be determined by like your baseline level of commitment, like required for either or. If you're working 40-hour weeks, you know, and you work from 9 to 5, like kind of a non-negotiable, like you're gonna have to work those set hours, you know, if that's the type of like corporate job that you're working, and essentially work around that when you're making time for your creative endeavors. So maybe finding time, you know, in the morning, like before you start work, to do whatever it is that you're creatively inclined to do, or, you know, before you start your workday. But I think it's also important to, you know, create a routine based on energetically what makes the most sense for you, you know, like in a way that maximizes essentially like your energy. So depending on, you know, the time of day, depending on the day, depending on the week, I feel like we tend to be more productive or have more energy in, you know, again, regards to our professional lives and also like our creative lives. And so if you're the most productive at work in the morning, for example, I would say try to maximize the times where you do feel like you have more energy for that. Like you feel like you would be more productive in that area. And so choosing to, by the way, I used, it's a Beauty Supply brand, Cream Blush by Ruby Kisses. It's the Duo Cream Blush in Peach Chasm. I found that if I'm using liquid products for my base, like using like a liquid base foundation slash like tinted moisturizer, skin tint, sunscreen type of thing, it ends up looking better when I go in with a cream blush first and then top it off with a powder blush. I'm using the Milani Baked Powder Blush in Dulce Pink, and yeah, I think it just like blends better. Just that on that. But with that being said, yeah, I think it's important to maximize your energy. You know, again, it varies by person, you know. For me, most of the time, I get more of my creative energy later on in the day. I'm not sure why, but usually like late at night, I'll have like creative energy. So if I'm like brainstorming for YouTube, like those ideas come a bit later on in the day, like after I'm done my day essentially. And I usually account for that, you know, when I'm planning. But I think it also depends, again, on the week, etc. So again, being intuitive, understanding like yourself and like listening to your gut, and again, knowing yourself, because there's generally patterns. Like I said, I'm more creative at night. Usually I'm more productive when it comes to my corporate job in the morning. So I try to, if possible, like start work earlier and finish earlier, if anything, because that way like I'm able to maximize my time and be efficient and again produce the best work, and then leave room for, you know, any creative projects that I have in mind, whether that be my poetry, whether that be, you know, acting, or whether that be content creation. So yeah, I'm gonna put my glue on my eyelashes. As you can see, like there's some themes that kind of like overlap in what I'm saying, and they're probably like not things that you guys haven't heard before in any way, but I just, again, found them to be really helpful for me as I'm navigating the two, you know, worlds. I go in with my Kimchi Chic Puff Puff Pass Set and Bake Powder. If you've been watching my videos for a while, you know that I'm obsessed with this product. I used to be a very big Laura Mercier translucent setting powder girly. Also got into like the one size setting powder, also really great. And this has been like my holy grail now. So also let me know if y'all want to see like some of my faves. You know, I'm open to focusing on that for one of my videos if y'all want to know like what my favorite products have been. I will say I think there's a reason why some products get hype, and I like to, you know, give them a chance sometimes. Like this kimchi setting powder, I saw like a lot of people recommend it. I feel like it was kind of like trending. I mean, the brand was in general, but like specifically the setting powder. But I also am not the type of person. I also don't like just following trends just to follow them. Like I need to know that the product is good, okay? I'm gonna wrap this video up, guys, because I feel like I be getting carried away when I be yapping. Y'all know how these styles get. But I did my eyelashes off camera because I was having technical difficulties, and honestly wasn't gonna really show y'all much when it came to that. I will say though, one thing that has changed my makeup look is trimming like the lash to my eye shape. I feel like before I did not cut it, this shit looked crazy. Like it looks insane. Like I'm glad I came to the realization that that's very important, because it really changes the way it looks on you. I feel like the lash should complement the eye, you know? It makes a huge difference. Before, it would literally weigh my eye down because my eyelid line, I guess, my eyelids are not that long. So, and I was over here, girl, we're not gonna get into that. I'm gonna add like a hint of like this purple right here. You guys can see on my tight line. I usually like to do like a glowy like inner eye, but I feel like it looks good like this. There's a lot of sparkle going on. I'm using my L'Oreal Extensionist mascara just for like under my lashes, just to blend them a little bit more. And then for my lower, just gonna do my lip. Yeah, just to wrap everything up, I'm using the Say lip liner in Tease, by the way. Just as with anything you're balancing in life, there's no perfect balance, right? Even though there is like no perfect balance, like all you can do is your best, you know? I think if you're grounded in the purpose for pursuing both, you know, like pursuing a career in corporate and also pursuing your artistic endeavors, like understanding how they fit into your like greater calling in life, and like basically essentially contribute to your overall well-being and your ability to live your most authentic and your best life, I feel like you'll manage both, you know, the way that you need to. But again, these are some tips that like I feel like are good to consider in the process. As long as you follow them. I'm gonna go in with the Fenty Beauty Gloss Balm in Riri. Gorgeous shade, beautiful shimmer. If you consider the things that I mentioned, you'll figure it out as you go. I feel like it's giving ballerina, I don't know. And then I'm gonna lock it all in with the Charlotte Tilbury Airbrush Flawless Setting Spray. At this point in my life, I'm trying not to use a lot of hairspray because, as y'all notice, Thiti's thinning at the front, but I'm gonna use a little bit because I have a flyaway problem. My hair does not stay down for anything. I found my pencil. Anyways, this is the look, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and you found it helpful. As long as you're trying your best, like I said, you're doing everything that you can do. So if you like this video, like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know what your thoughts are if you want to see more content like this. And I hope you guys stay tuned for the next upload. Bye.